Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the live demo. So I'm Pip Morpeth, I'm the CEO of MethodGrid, and today I'm just going to give you a bit of background about MethodGrid, just explain where it all came from. So maybe spend about 10 minutes on that. Then we'll get into the product, so give you a view of that playbook on the top right there, so you can have a look at that, so you kind of understand it. And then maybe talk about some of the projects that we're doing at the moment, and give you time for any questions that you might have about MethodGrid or about the product. And we'll try and keep it to about 45 minutes. If I look a bit hot and flustered, it's because I am. The heat is quite intolerable today, but just like anyone, I suppose, yeah, just enjoying the hot weather at the moment. Okay, let me just give you a bit of background about where this came from. So probably 6 years ago, we took a whiteboard, we built a whiteboard, and we took that round to a few consulting business and said, look, we think this is the current situation you have, and I'll just explain what that was. So we'll just jump over here. So we just basically said, we think you have this, which you've got a collection of kind of SharePoint procedures, standards, templates, and guidance that are somewhere or not everywhere, that's kind of stored in your organization. And it's kind of your library of knowledge, your kind of how you want people to execute and deliver projects, or how you want to deliver services. However, I think some of the pain points a lot of people have is obviously a lot of that collateral or knowledge becomes out of date. There's different versions, but I think the big problem is people, is they just can't find the information they need when they need it, and they don't know who to ask, and it can be quite disorientating for new people to get up to speed in terms of ways of working. But I would say every organization has something like that in terms of a big SharePoint or a collection of SharePoints, or a number of repositories, CDE environments, where all of that information is held. I think the next piece that they have is they all have some form of project lifecycle that they want teams to follow. And it will conclude kind of the stages that they want teams to follow, the kind of gate reviews, and normally it'll cover the kind of core themes that are expected for the teams to follow. And that will include like the decision points, the controls, any kind of assurance reviews. That's kind of the way of working, how it's prescribed. And maybe it's a PDF, a fancy looking one, I'm sure, or it's a set of PowerPoint slides. But what we find is teams need both. They need the library of information, the knowledge and the know-how, and then they need the structure and the framework that they need to execute. And so the whiteboard that we sort of designed and sort of showed around a while ago was to say, well, I think that's what you have, but a lot of the problems are that teams can't find the information they need. I think projects follow different ways of working. There isn't one way of working was a kind of popular bit of feedback. We don't just have one kind of project framework that we need to follow. In some cases, our clients would determine the life cycle and the gates that we need to support. So that kind of one way of working didn't really work, especially in kind of different contracting scenarios. What they kind of also expressed was, look, our experts are becoming bottlenecks to the process. People are trying to find the information and the guidance they need. They don't know who to speak to, but also when they do find the person to speak to, that person's pretty overwhelmed by constantly repeating themselves and giving the answer. The other one is kind of, it's really difficult for new starters to get up to speed. I think the phrase we use quite a lot is, we push the burden of knowledge to the individual to go and find out how it all works. And so they have to kind of trawl through quite a lot of information before they feel confident in how they do things. Inevitably, because of those issues, compliance is very difficult to evidence, and kind of there's a lack of confidence really, which kind of leads to quite a significant amount of rework and gaps in governance, which also kind of compounds the effect and creates delays. I think the overwhelming kind of response is we've written it all down, job done, but actually in reality, compliance to our ways of working and adoption to our ways of working is quite poor. And we have a very simple framework. It's kind of how chaotic is it? Do you have clarity on ways of working, and do you have confidence then that every project or every service that you deliver is aligned with your standards and evidencing that they can deliver it? We've done quite a few bit of research, and I'd say probably everyone we speak to, and including when we first started working with clients directly, is they tend to feel that between chaos and clarity. That in terms of clarity, they've got a life cycle, but in terms of the kind of detail of the how you do it, that's normally lacking, and that's really what teams need in order for them to kind of deliver successfully. So the one thing we thought that would help, and this is the kind of solution we proposed, was to say, well, why don't we just bring all of that together into a digital playbook that becomes a kind of visual representation of the project lifecycle. And that's what Method Grid is, really. We take all the client's knowledge, process, procedures in how you want to execute projects. We then take the framework or the project lifecycle and then translate that into a visual management system that becomes interactive, that teams can use and follow on every project. So just a quick illustration, it's kind of, you can see there the playbook gives them the kind of stages, the guidance on the deliverables, the stage gates, and the life cycle. We felt it was really important that we merge knowledge and delivery together. So why it's very clear that this is what we want you to do and what you need to evidence, the how you do it would be side by side. And then it's become more and more integrated as we've worked with clients, but one of the latest requirements as well, we've got all of this training and learning, or some cases we don't. But what we want to be able to do is make that learning and training accessible at the point of need, rather than just held in a learning management system. So we've now allowed the playbook to integrate with e-learning, so you can access e-learning training. I'll probably show you that in the demo. I'll pause there. That's essentially just a bit of the background. Where we are today, I mean, we were very lucky at the start of our journey, and it was MACE and Turner and Townsend that were originally the kind of big enterprise clients that took on the playbook approach. And we've then just really stayed within the kind of capital project delivery environment. So obviously we're just ongoing at the moment with the UKFE, which is the new fusion reactor. We're building their project and program management system. We do a lot of work with Network Rail about PACE Digital, and then SSE, it's about how you build offshore wind assets. RLB, it's the complete management system for how they deliver services to clients. And Ocean Winds, I think, is another one, but we actually do the kind of operational management of an asset playbook to kind of make sure that meet all the standards. I suppose the core outcome out of all of this is, for any client that we work with, it's always just making sure their ways of working are clearly articulated, universally understood, and then consistently followed. So that's a kind of little bit about us and a bit of pitch about Method Grid. I'll now just take some time now just to show you what a playbook looks like. And this is what the experience of the teams on the ground is. So I'll just open this playbook so you can see it. So this is what a playbook looks like. So I can scroll left to right. I can see the stages, so identification, initiation, and I can work all the way through the left to right of the project lifecycle. So that's the kind of left to right. We added this ability then for you to integrate your stage gate controls, so I can interact with the stage gate. And whilst it's clear that I can explain what the purpose, the objectives of that stage gate are, what I find is probably more important and what causes confusion is to clearly articulate to the teams what's the exit criteria questions that you need to answer in order to kind of progress through that stage. And if it's required, what evidence do I have to attach and upload and record and capture within the stage gate boundary? Okay. And then naturally, I can then, as we're working through, I can record the gate approver, and I can also record the gate outcome as well. And I have a complete kind of audit trail of the decisions, the ticks of when this thing was evidenced and the decision that we made. So that's the kind of basics of kind of the stages and the stage gate controls. You then can break your playbook down into different what we call themes, and that's just allowing you to make the ways of working a bit more logical and broken down. So themes might be, you might have one for program and project, you might have one for organization and governance, business change, benefits management, solution design, planning and control. If you're in capital project delivery, it's highly likely that there'll be kind of design management, health and safety, sustainability. That will become the kind of logical themes that then map out the entire delivery system for how you deliver capital projects. The next thing is these elements. And the key thing that we want to, I've explained before, is as a user, when I interact with it, what I wanted to do is obviously be very clear on what are the tasks or controls that I need to evidence. That's on the right-hand side, but then access to knowing how I do it. So I have a description, I can embed a video explainer, I can be clear on what deliverables are required, what the RACI is, potentially any hints and tips, or what's the natural flow of what I should do next, and what should I have done before. There is then, okay, I need to produce a deliverable. So if I can click on that deliverable, I can now see, okay, well, this is the purpose of this deliverable. I can access the template. I can see some best practice examples, and I have access to the toolkits, or what is very helpful is what the quality criteria I need this deliverable to meet. Who needs to review and assign it? And this is also very popular, which is I'm totally stuck, I've not done it before, or clients ask me a particular question about this deliverable, and then what we allow you to do then is I can now, okay, Harry's the expert, and I can have a quick conversation with Harry and say, look, do you have time? Quick chat. Now, nice functionality, but what we're trying to do there is help people establish the network of support around them, but rather than it just be left to kind of who responds first on an email, it's helping you guide people to kind of speak to the right SME for that kind of support and guidance about how you should do things in the organization. So that is the kind of core concept of the playbook. And like I said, it's a management system that helps you evidence that things have been done. So I interact back here. I can have some tasks that are just reminders about what you should do, but you can see here that this task required me to, I can specify that some tasks need to have evidence attached. I can be very clear on what the quality criteria is for that particular instruction. And then once I've attached evidence, I can then mark that complete. And then from a visual management side of things, what you start to see is that the playbook becomes more dynamic about showing what things you've completed, what's still left to do, but you still have the ability in the platform to assign responsibility to different team members, and they can go in and assign where they are. But essentially, it's making ways of working incredibly transparent, but also very visual to ways of working. So that's the concept. Now, what we found is most organizations don't have really one playbook or one way of working. So we wanted to make the platform very easy for any organization to start codifying their ways of working. So if I just show you that, if I click on the pencil, I'm now going to show you how you go about building a playbook. And we wanted the platform not to be really that you needed technical experts to help you codify it. We wanted it to be something that the business could own, and they can then build their playbooks about how they do things. So I can have as many stages as I want. I can call the stages whatever I want, and you just simply add the stages and you add the themes using this button. If it comes to kind of building an element, I click on this. Again, we didn't want to put any restrictions about how you might want the look and feel of your way of working to look. So I can add a kind of description and a text box. I can add the activities and the checklists that I want the teams to be able to do. I can add a few tasks and controls if I want, I don't know, PMP complete. And then I can just say, well, that task has to have evidence attached. So I'll just switch that on. And then, yeah, then teams will, when they try and complete that activity, it'll prompt them to say, well, look, you need to attach evidence for that particular task. Most clients like the idea of videos and embedding video explainers just to give people context about why it's important. So I can do that, and I can move it around, hopefully. Oops. And if I need to, I can also, I like the idea of the experts area. So I can add in kind of experts. So that's the kind of core concept of you can kind of codify your ways of working. However, what we've learned with this over time is it can be quite a manual undertaking if I was to try and translate all of your library of knowledge, standards, processes and procedures into a playbook, if I had to do that manually. So what we've done to help clients on that journey, if I just take any deliverable, you can obviously naturally use templates about the look and feel, but you can also use AI assisted templates to help you do that. So we'll just click on this, for example. So this is where I can set the kind of tone or any specific language or the context of the playbook, like the organization that it's for, or the type of playbook and the outcome that it needs to achieve. Recently, we added source grounding, so now I can have a library of resources that might hold any technical standards or guidance or best practice, and then I can use that to then generate different perspectives of how I want that represented in the playbook. So I'll just use the MSP example for now. And what the system then does is it goes through the standards and the information, and then it will then start to build and develop the playbook for you. So it will draft the purpose, it will work through and pull out any kind of key activities or approval steps. It'll be kind of define the kind of objectives, the format composition, hints and tips, and it'll also define the quality criteria. With a bit of training on your kind of organization and your roles and responsibilities, some clients have a RACI matrix. It can also read that and then translate that into tables that need to kind of represent how you do it and who you need to involve. But also it can also pull out what are the kind of key quality controls and approvals and who needs to approve it. And then you can capture and record that within the playbook as well. So that's really, I mean, in terms of this feature alone, we tend now to, working with a client, we will probably within 6 to 8 weeks have their playbook translated from all of their standards and ready to pilot on live projects. And it's a kind of very fail fast approach we take, is basically most of your teams are really struggling understanding ways of working already. So the quicker we can get something out there to just get that baseline improved and getting tracking and auditing underway is really the kind of speed that we focus on, knowing that, you know, we can come back and we can add a video explainer at a later date, or we can improve the copy based on feedback from the teams. Because sometimes we overprescribe, and in some cases we underprescribe content. So it's just really getting that feedback from users about how you tailor and refine the playbook to improve ways of working. So that's probably like the core concepts of the playbook, and it's just helping you codify ways of working. I can show you a few more examples. So naturally, this I think is an MSP example. I'll just click home. I'd say most clients will use, will follow REBA. So you can have a kind of REBA-based project lifecycle. So it might be the different stages of stage 0, 1, 2, all the way through. This playbook is quite good because it works obviously for the intelligent client that wants to make sure that all the kind of deliverables and evidence are required. But it also works really well for professional service organizations, because in some cases, when we clone a playbook to be used by a project, one of the responses is, well, we're not really involved in stage 0. We should be, but actually we're just commissioned for kind of stages 2 and stages 3. So this is really what the platform we designed to do is, once I have a master template of this playbook, I can then clone it, and then I can tailor it and right size it for that particular project. And that's really helpful in terms of giving the teams more control about how they dynamically make the playbook or ways of working more dynamic to respond to either the scenario that they're facing, or in terms of the kind of client's ways of working that you can adapt and make that. You can still be very clear on what the kind of mandatory deliverables are as well. So you can say, well, look, a final project brief, you might say that that one there is a mandatory deliverable. So I can say, look, I just attach that label onto that activity. I can say, look, I can just put a dot label on it, and it'll have a little dot. But then I can build filtered views of this playbook that shows me all of the mandatory deliverables that are required. In some cases, you can use labels to help you work on different different language or regional requirements. We've done that a few times. So if you're doing a wind farm in the UK versus Scotland, there are different regulators that you have to interact with. So you can just use labels on specific elements that allow you to filter the playbook before you clone it. And once you've filtered it, you can then clone that particular viewpoint. And it's very simple to clone a playbook. You can just literally click here, clone. Obviously, you have the access. I can click to just clone the structure. I can clone it with the current filter applied, or I can just choose to clone this with everything in it. And then once I clone it, that becomes the instance for that particular project. There's other playbooks that we're currently building at the moment, and we normally make them available. So I think if you saw on here, there's Network Rails PACE version 1.3. So this is actually a published version of Network Rails PACE framework, which is available online as a free resource, but also as a playbook within the platform. So we have a number of clients that obviously work with Network Rail, including Network Rail themselves. So it's really just about helping the industry get transparency about what the ways of working are from the client to the subcontractor. But this essentially is a free template within the platform that you can use. Other examples which we're building at the moment, so there's a UK government project delivery playbook that we're working on at the moment, which is this one. So what we're doing for this is to take all of the government project delivery standards. So you can see here the stages of feasibility, appraisal, definition, delivery and operation, and that's based on the government UK PO, was it GOV 002 project delivery standard. But what we've done is just also use the assurance framework and the green book as inputs for these particular resources, including any route maps. And this is just then codifying the management system. If you deliver projects, it allows you to kind of just evidence that you're compliant with all government standards. And here's the kind of purpose. We're building video explainers to help them, and then capture the kind of key information and controls that help you do that. And that's why I think we like the playbook concept, is that when we work with clients, normally, whilst we have a few playbooks, we're not trying to force teams down a single way of working. What we're trying to respect is to make sure that ways of working kind of reflect reality. There are kind of a few enhancements that are currently in beta at the moment to help teams with greater productivity and efficiency. So I'll show you an example of that. So this came from a client session that we had last year, which is great. I have a template, but would it be possible for me to use AI to then help me draft particular sections, or help me get a first draft of that deliverable? And this is in beta. It's in closed beta at the moment with a couple of clients, but I'll just show you an example. I can now have a look at this deliverable that I'm working on. And what the system does is it reads the template and then puts it into this interface that I can now chat with, and I can still edit the text on the side, but I can chat with AI and ask it to see if it's got the information in the playbook, and then help me co-draft each section. And as I work through each template, I can then tick things off. And then once I've done that, I can just ask it to then produce it into a final draft that can be downloaded and attached and shared with the team. The other beta for AI is when I upload evidence. This one. So when I attach evidence, what I can also specify is I can ask AI to do a initial QA review of that deliverable. And it basically just follows these work instructions and then will give you a non-conformant or compliant statement based on the evidence you've attached. We're building that not as a way of substituting the need for Q&A or the human to do that. What we're trying to just catch is just giving teams instant feedback on whether they've met the brief based on the quality criteria. So, it could be as basic as all the sections complete, or all the sections to a sufficient level of detail, just to give teams that initial feedback before it goes for a kind of formal QA review with either the SME, before it goes to the client. But essentially that's just helping give feedback to users within sort of 10 or 15 seconds of them uploading the deliverable. The other kind of core concept is just in the kind of final couple of minutes is you'll naturally will want kind of reporting to track visibility. So there is a kind of, you can build your own kind of dashboards within the system, which can then analyze all of the grid information and give you the status of where they are. Or you can look at, if you want to have a portfolio of grids, you can have a look at all the different grids that you have, and you can, if I just get off, show me all of them in the playbook. I can then see all of the different statuses of every playbook, and I can quickly jump down and have a look at each of those individual projects. And that works for kind of stage gates and activities as well on your playbooks. From a compliance perspective, obviously the thing is just to say as well, you also have an audit trail of everything that's happened on this playbook. So this gives you that complete traceability of who has done what and when things were completed. So you have an audit trail for your management system in terms of when were things approved, when were things evidenced as you walk through the life cycle as well. It's not a well-used feature because we're not really into that kind of project delivery, but it is useful for key milestones and key decision gates. But you can switch between a visual view of the playbook and a Gantt view. And this kind of gives teams a kind of visual representation of how that playbook should be delivered. Again, we're not trying to be Primavera or P6 or the different scheduling tools. It's just an added bit of feature just to, if you wanted to see the key milestones or the key assurance review dates visually on a timeline, you can plot that and baseline that within the system as well. Cool. Let me stop sharing the playbook. So that's really what the platform is about there. So again, it's that core concept of what we're trying to do and help clients with, which is take all your kind of knowledge, process, information and standards that you probably have but are struggling to help the teams find and use and apply consistently. And what we do is then translate that into a visual playbook that gives them access to the information they need when they need it. But what we're trying to do is make it more aligned with the reality of how you actually follow that process in BAU day-to-day working. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we are. That's kind of Method Grid, and that's the playbook platform. There are a few things that we do on the side to help clients on that journey in terms of improving their capability. So obviously we provide a platform. What we've moved into more recently is helping clients. What we find is you've got a lot of stuff that's written down, but you might not have the training or learning assets that help people build their confidence in how to execute it. So we provide a kind of people capability service that helps with e-learning, video explainers, or developing career pathways that give teams better guidance on the kind of career path and progression steps. And then more recently, we're just now helping clients use AI to help them with smarter ways of working, either through AI quality assurance or helping them produce the deliverables that are in their management system to get it right first time. Cool. What we're also doing at the moment, I said I'd talk about some of the projects that we're doing. We've been doing a bit of research on kind of management system maturity at the moment, and what we thought would be useful. It's about maybe 2 or 3 weeks from being published, but we will send it out on LinkedIn. So if you don't follow us on LinkedIn, please take the opportunity to do so. What we found really helpful with clients is to help understand where they currently are today in terms of their management system maturity. And baseline that, and then try and work with them to understand what are they trying to mature to. So what kind of, and it might not be, some clients aren't trying to get to level 6, but they are certainly trying to go from tribal up to kind of an integrated state to improve ways of working. So this is just going to be a very simple assessment framework that we kind of give as a free resource to help teams on that journey. So you can do a quick rapid self-assessment. And what it does essentially looks at kind of strategy, governance, decision rights, the life cycle, processes, ways of working, the kind of standards, the evidence assurance and the 3 lines of defense, people confidence, the digital data system adoption. So what we find is we're not the only system involved in capital project delivery, but you still want those systems that are key parts that need to be used throughout the life cycle. What we're trying to help clients do is embed them into the playbook, supported by the training and guidance to help them actually use those systems. So another kind of benefit is, if you're implementing a new ERP or if you're implementing a CDE, how you use that in the life cycle, or how you use that, and evidencing that is another kind of key requirement to embed that guidance and support within the playbook, so you improve your overall adoption of technology, so you get more value from it. And then the AI readiness assessment, I think what we've learned is, especially with the QA and template production, what we benefit from with clients using that is we've already helped them define the quality criteria of each deliverable. We've already helped them kind of improve the templates that they need to use. And having AI bounded by the management system has helped with then making it stay more aligned with its responses, so that we get a better response in terms of the level of quality, or the assessment criteria is when it's thinking about what's important, it's bound by the management system. And so it's just helping clients assess that and on that journey. And obviously it kind of helps you work out what stage you're at, but also then helps you understand which areas that you could improve to kind of improve the outcome of the management system quicker, because some things are easier to do than others. So I'll pause there. That's just kind of a quick kind of demo of the platform, just to give you a bit of background about the business. But yeah, happy to take any questions. If you want to either chat or just raising questions now, I'll be very happy to take them. I will also, there's a few resources that I'll just promote right now. So if you want to learn more about the process to playbook journey, then I would recommend the process to playbook white paper, which is, it just gives you a bit more background information about some of the challenges that people have when everything's stored in a document library versus integrated into ways of working, and some of the challenges that you have to face. And then if you're about to want more information and knowledge about how to actually codify and build a project delivery playbook, then I would also recommend this resource as well. So this is Building World-Class Project Delivery Methods and Playbooks. The reason we built this one was just to help other clients on the journey. What are all the things that you need to consider and think about codifying ways of working for project delivery? So that, if you want to download those couple of resources, you can do. But yeah, I'll pause there and just see if there's any questions that you might have. Don't worry if there aren't any questions. Please feel free to reach out to the team. If you want to find more information, then please visit our website, or just reach out to myself on LinkedIn if you'd like to find out more information about the platform or about Method Grid itself. Okay. All right. Well, there haven't been any questions, but it's very hot. Oh, sorry. One's just come through. Oh, my pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the session, but I'm sure I'll see you at our next event, or either at Digital Construction North, I think is the next one that we're going to. But have a great day and enjoy the heat if you can. Cool. Bye bye.